I just wanted to do a second video on what happens when someone dies, because when I did that first video and I went back and watched it, I felt there was quite a bit more I could share. This time around, what I want to do, um, or what I want to concentrate on, are some of the texts that are some of the Bible texts that are used to argue that when someone dies, they immediately go to heaven or to hell. The first. Um, the first thing I want to share is the first thing I want to talk about is the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, because that has been used to argue that when someone dies, they immediately go to heaven or to hell. So in this case, when Jesus was telling the parable, he he said that there was a rich man, uh, who ate very well, and but there was a poor man named Lazarus who actually sat by his gate, and he had sores on his body, and the dogs licked his sores. And when Lazarus, in the parable, died, he went straight to heaven, into Abraham's bosom. But when the rich man died, he went to hell, where he then started pleading for Abraham to help him, and maybe to send Lazarus to give him some water. So that's taken literally, but obviously we have to remember that it's a parable. It's not something that actually happened. Um, One of the things I can say to just show that that story is not to be taken literally is the fact that Jesus said that Lazarus went to heaven, and uh, you know was in Abraham's bosom. The bosom is someone's chest. That's what bosom means. So we know that you can't fit one man into another's chest. So, and we know that there are many millions of people who are going to be saved, even those who have already died, who died having faith in Jesus, who we know are going to be saved. So, how many? The question I want to ask is, how many people can fit into Abraham's chest? So that story is not to be taken literally. Some of these things that Jesus used to talk about when he was basically giving illustrations based upon some beliefs that the Jewish people had at the time. For instance, the Jews believed that Gentiles were dirty, and they believed that the Jews, were God's chosen people. So in the case of the Syrophoenician woman, when she came begging Jesus to help her because her daughter was unwell, um, Jesus actually, uh, gave an illustration where he said that it's not fit to give the children's food to the dogs. So we know that Jesus, being creator of everything, would not refer to would not have been literally referring to that woman as a dog, because in the end he did help her. He was just trying to teach the Jews a lesson that they had some erroneous beliefs, because in the end he helped her anyway. So yeah, the parable of the rich man and Lazarus is not to be taken literally. It's just a parable, and the point of Jesus telling parables was to teach a lesson. Um, and then another text that's twisted to to support the belief in immediate life after death is 2 Corinthians 5 verse 8. The one that says absent from the body. It's actually misquoted first of all, and then twisted to support this belief in immediate life after death. So what Paul was talking about was the fact that we cannot be, because we cannot be in God's presence because the text says absent from the body and present with the Lord. And then someone say, well, you see there, it says that if you're absent from the body, you are present with the Lord. That's not what it's saying. Paul was saying that we cannot go to heaven and be in God's presence in these earthly bodies that we have. We know that these, at the resurrection, when Christ returns, those who died having faith in him will be translated. So these bodies that we have are not the same bodies that we're going to go to heaven with. So basically, absent from the body means, this body shall be changed. And Paul also refers to the body as a tent. Basically, we're going to leave these bodies and we're going to be given new bodies with which we will ascend into heaven and be present with the Lord. That's what he's talking about. He's not talking about immediate life after death. That's a misunderstanding. Also, something I also wanted to say with regards to, let's say, that particular verse, because the first thing I spoke about was the parable, but this verse, the idea of creating a doctrine out of one Bible verse can be quite dangerous. I mean, I think you need at least quite a few verses to support each other, bearing in mind that the scriptures interpret themselves. So we look at one verse and then we compare it to others. We don't just take one verse, which in this case has been twisted to support an erroneous belief. And also in my first video where I spoke about what happens to people when they die, I spoke about I spoke about how God forbids communion with the dead, or the act of trying to make contact with the dead, because what actually happens is that like it says in Ecclesiastes 9 verse 5, the dead know not anything. The dead don't know anything. So who is it that's actually appearing as a dead person? It's the devil and his fallen angels. So that's what God is trying to protect us from. So something else that's used as an argument to support the belief in immediate life after death is the issue of the thief on the cross. The one that had faith in Jesus. Jesus said to that thief, he said, today you shall be with me in paradise. And that's been taken to mean that when the thief died, he immediately went to heaven. But that's not what that verse is saying. And I'll try and read some scriptures here to prove that. So in John 20 verse 17, Jesus said to Mary, after his resurrection, he said, touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father, but go to my brethren and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. So even Jesus himself, when he was crucified and was buried, he didn't go straight to heaven. It clearly says here that he said to Mary, touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father. So if Jesus himself didn't go to heaven immediately upon his death, why would anyone believe that the thief on the cross immediately went to heaven upon his death? Let me just explain maybe what exactly happened in that incident where Jesus was talking to that, or when that thief was talking to Jesus. Basically, the thief said to Jesus, remember me when you come in your kingdom. And